Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story is about a neighbor who took, can I borrow this, to a whole new level by sending her kid into someone's fenced yard to take their mower after being told no. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. My new neighbor demanded to borrow my lawnmower, then tried to take it herself. Yesterday afternoon, I was mowing my lawn when a woman I'd never seen before suddenly jumped in front of me. I nearly ran into her before I shut off the mower. She looked irritated, like I'd personally ignored her on purpose. "I've been trying to get your attention," she said. "I didn't hear you," I replied, taking out one earbud. "The mower's kinda loud." She gave a stiff nod and said, "I need your lawnmower. My son's going to mow our lawn." I blinked. I'm using it right now?" "Then bring it to my house when you're done," she said, as if she were asking me to pass the salt. That caught me off guard. I'm not great at confrontation. I tend to be polite even when people are being unreasonable. So I just said, "Well, I still need to mow my backyard." "That's fine. Bring it over tomorrow morning," she replied. "I work in the morning," I said. She frowned like that was somehow my fault. "Then bring it after work. I'll be waiting." Then she just turned and walked away like the deal was done. I stood there in complete disbelief, replaying the conversation in my head. Who demands to borrow a stranger's mower like that? No introduction, no please, just expectation. Thing is, my mower isn't some junky old gas-powered thing. It's a high-end battery-powered model that cost me a small fortune. Each battery runs about $250, and they're already wearing down. When the grass is damp, it gets clogged and drains the charge fast, so I have to swap batteries mid-job. It's finicky and expensive, basically the last thing I'd ever lend to someone I don't even know. And honestly, I didn't trust her. I didn't know where she lived, if she'd bring it back, or whether she'd try to use it every weekend once I gave in once. I decided I wasn't going to lend it out, but I'd need to stand firm when she came back. Fast forward to the next day. I just pulled into my driveway after work, and there she was standing on my front walk. "There you are," she said. "I was starting to think you forgot." "Forgot what?" I asked, even though I knew exactly what she meant. "The mower," she said cheerfully. "My son's ready to mow now. Bring it over." I sighed. "Sorry, I don't lend out my mower." Her face hardened instantly. "What do you mean you don't lend it out? I asked you already." "I know," I said calmly, "and I'm saying no. It's expensive, and I don't let anyone else use it." "You think I'm going to steal it?" she shot back, offended. I shrugged. "I don't know you well enough to say either way." Her tone shifted to manipulative in a heartbeat. "My son's been trying to find work. He's going to mow lawns for money. We can't afford to buy one right now. You're being very selfish." I kept my voice even. "I'm sorry for your situation, but the answer's still no. You can rent one from the hardware store down the road." "Oh, sure," she snapped, "because I'm made of money." Wow, some neighbor you are. My old neighborhood, we actually helped each other. "And maybe you should have stayed there," I said, and started walking toward my front door. That's when I heard my gate creak open. I turned around. Her teenage son was pulling my mower out of the garage. "Hey," I shouted, running over, "put that down right now." The kid froze, but she came running up behind him. "Don't yell at my son," she barked. "He's just helping me." "Helping you steal my mower?" I snapped. She actually rolled her eyes and said, "It's not stealing if I was going to bring it back." That's when my neighbor Tom, retired, sharp, and absolutely done with nonsense, came out of his house. "What's going on?" he called. The woman turned instantly syrupy sweet. "Oh, we were just borrowing his mower, but he's making a scene." Tom gave her a deadpan look and said, "If he said no, that's not borrowing, that's trespassing. Touch that mower again and I'll call the cops myself." Her face went from fake pleasant to furious in half a second. She grabbed her son's arm and hissed, "Come on, we're leaving." Then she stomped off, muttering something under her breath. I locked the gate and garage immediately. About 10 minutes later, she knocked on Tom's door, yelling that he'd threatened her. He didn't even bother opening it, just pointed to his security camera and told her to leave or he'd send the footage to the police. She stormed off again, fuming. This morning she walked by while I was getting the mail, didn't say a word, just glared like she could set me on fire with her mind. I smiled and said, "Good morning." That made her walk even faster. I've already sent the footage to the HOA since she had her kid inside my fenced yard. The HOA president, who for once isn't an idiot, said they'll issue a written warning for harassment and trespassing. If she or her kid set foot on my property again, I'll call the police and press charges. This afternoon, I mowed my lawn again with my shiny mower and waved to Tom while she pretended not to see me. It's actually refreshing that your HOA president backed you up for once. That almost never happens in these stories. The fact that they're sending her a written warning means she's now officially on record as the neighborhood problem. One more stunt and she's toast. And our second story. I know the owner. I'm going to get you fired. Years ago, I worked overnight as the night manager at a large motel, the kind that hosted everything from business travelers to full-blown family reunions. Most nights were quiet. Some guests came in late, checked in, and crashed. Others had a drink or two at the bar and disappeared. But then there were the wedding nights. If you've ever worked hospitality, you already know nothing good happens after midnight when a wedding party is involved. This one particular night, the reception had started in our main banquet room. Everything seemed fine. Around 8 p.m., one of the guests came swaggering up to the front desk, drink in hand, clearly feeling himself. He leaned on the counter and said, "You know, I'm good friends with one of the owners here. We go way back." I smiled politely. "That's nice," I said, while thinking, "Yeah, and I'm best friends with the Pope." He went on about how he gets special treatment and how I should keep that in mind. I nodded along, not taking it seriously. If I had $1 for every time someone claimed to know an owner or manager, I could have retired 10 years early. By 2 a.m., the reception had officially ended. The DJ was packing up, the bar was closed, and staff were clearing out tables. Most guests either went to their rooms or headed home. I did my usual rounds, locked up the side entrances, and was about to settle into my night audit paperwork when the phone started ringing. "Front desk," I answered. "Yes," a woman whispered. "I think there's a party going on upstairs. It's really loud." Before I could hang up, another call came in, and then another. I sighed, grabbed my clipboard, and headed up to the third floor. Sure enough, halfway down the hall, I could hear the music, thumping bass, muffled laughter, bottles clinking, the whole post-wedding after-party. I knocked on the door. The noise dipped, then voices whispered on the other side. A moment later, the door opened, and there was Mr. I Know the Owner himself, red-faced, tie around his head like a bandana, holding a beer. The room behind him looked like a frat house. 10 people crammed inside, music blasting from a Bluetooth speaker, pizza boxes on the dresser, drinks everywhere. I raised my voice over the noise. "Party's over, folks. If you're registered guests, head back to your own rooms. If you're not staying here, you need to leave the property immediately." Someone groaned, "Aw, come on, man, it's just a few of us." I didn't budge. "You've got 15 minutes to clear out before I call the police and evict everyone in this room. And if I have to do that, there will be no refunds. None." That got everyone's attention. The music stopped. Most of the guests started gathering their things, but not Mr. Big Shot. He stepped into the doorway and said, "You can't do that. I'll get you fired if you try. I told you I know one of the owners." I crossed my arms. "Then I'll be fired for doing my job. 15 minutes, starting now." He tried to stare me down, but I just looked back at him until he finally slammed the door shut. I waited in the hallway, listening to the muffled arguing inside. 15 minutes came and went. I knocked again. The noise started creeping back up, so I called the local police. They arrived quickly. Small town, quiet night, and within 10 minutes, the officers had everyone escorted out. The few who were staying the night went to their own rooms, and the rest were politely told to leave the premises. Once the dust settled, I wrote up a full incident report. Time, details, everything. I included the guest's name, his threats, and the police involvement. The next morning, I left copies for the front desk manager, the general manager, and my direct supervisor. A few days later, I came in for my shift, and my boss called me into the office. I half expected some sort of complaint, but instead he handed me a printed memo and said, "You'll like this." It was a notice stating that the guest from that night was permanently banned from the property for harassment, disruptive behavior, and threatening staff. "Oh," my boss added, "turns out he really did know one of the owners. They went to college together. The owner saw your report and called him personally. He's not too happy." Apparently, the guy had bragged about what happened, assuming his friend would make it all go away. Instead, the owner told him, word for word, You embarrassed my business, you threatened my staff, and you're never stepping foot in that motel again. That right there was the highlight of my week. So yeah, he was right about one thing. Someone did get fired over that night. Just not me. It's stories like that that remind you there are still bosses who back up their staff, and there are still consequences for people who mistake customer service for servitude. And our last story, $1,500,000. I'm Michael, an architecture student. My uncle has told this story many times. He likes to say it happened to his friend, but he gives a different name every time. Maybe he heard it in a bar. I'll retell it as if it happened to me because the lesson is useful. As a kid, I lived in a house next to an empty lot. The land had been in our family since 1962. My brother and I built simple tree houses there, hauling planks, nailing on crooked steps. Once we fell off the lowest branch and smashed my mom's pot that we'd borrowed as a helmet. She scolded us, but we loved that lot. There were a few old pines. We thought of them as ours. In 2014, I sold the house. It made sense because I was moving. I kept the lot. I had a plan. Save a few trees and someday put up a small house. I paid the taxes. The paperwork was in order. I didn't visit the lot for years. School, work, travel. In 2024, I decided to check on it. I arrived and saw a construction site. A crane, workers, a house shell already up. From the budget, it looked like about $1.5 million. I walked up to the foreman. He calmly said the owner was Michael Laurenberg. I introduced myself. He looked at me and went quiet. I went home and pulled every document I had. The 2014 contract confirmed. I sold the house, not the lot. The cadastral records were in my name, the tax bills, mine. Then I went to the city land resources office, and lying behind me was a woman whose boundary markers had been lost during a neighbor's renovation. She'd also discovered that someone had filed changes in the register. I thought then, this probably isn't an isolated case. The developer also had documents, a 2023 purchase through an attorney, notarized certificates, permits. I started figuring out how this happened. It turned out someone from Nigeria had used a forged passport in my name, but with a different birth date and someone else's photo. That person hired a lawyer, obtained a power of attorney, and sold my lot. The notary and registrar processed the deal because everything looked formally correct. A bank manager I'd opened a scholarship account with once called me. He said, verify every signature. There are a lot of power of attorney cases right now. He advised me to file official written requests with the registry, the notary, and the developer. I did. The answers didn't come right away. We agreed to meet with the development company. 2 of their managers and a lawyer came. They explained they had purchased in good faith, paid money, were already building, and didn't want to stop. I said the land was mine and showed my documents. They showed theirs. It looked like 2 sets of papers existed for the same lot. The developer's lawyer said, we followed procedure. If someone forged your data, that isn't our fault. I replied, it's your choice whom you pay. I didn't receive your money. You're building on my land. That same day, I went onto the site and spoke with a worker. He said, I'm sorry if that's the case, but we were told everything is legal. I had no complaints against the crew. They were doing their jobs. I asked the foreman not to bring heavy machinery closer to the old pines. He shrugged and said he'd try. A week later, 1 pine was cut down per the landscaping plan. It was unpleasant, but I understood they wouldn't stop without a court order. I filed a lawsuit. My demands: halt construction, demolish the structure, restore the plantings, compensate damages. Hearings began. The developer's lawyers insisted they were a good faith purchaser, that they had a notarized power of attorney, and the city issued a permit. The city's representative said they check formalities, not conduct investigations. The notary said the documents appeared genuine. I requested signature and passport forensics. Several examinations were ordered. Meanwhile, I remembered my old neighbor across the street, Mr. Ivan. Once we lost a ball and climbed his fence to get it. He came out, looked at us, and said, don't take what isn't yours, and if you need something, ask. We apologized, and he handed us the ball himself. I recalled that as I listened in court to arguments like, we already paid. Respecting someone else's space is simple. If you're unsure, don't cross the line. I met the attorney who had handled that deal. He said he acted on the basis of the power of attorney and passport. I asked if he'd seen me in person. He said he'd seen a person with the documents. Everything matched the checklist. During a recess, he added, "This happens a lot now. I run extra checks these days." Later, he really did start giving lectures on how not to fall victim to document fraud. That was afterwards. It didn't make me feel any better at the time. The police opened a case. I provided copies of all documents. After a few months, the trial led abroad. From there, progress was limited to requests. Replies either didn't come or were purely formal. Meanwhile, construction continued. I watched windows being delivered, utilities connected. I filed motions for injunctive relief. It helped briefly, but overall the process moved on. One of the investors, a private individual, contacted me. He said, "I invested because they showed me all the permits. I didn't know about your situation." I answered, "I understand, but I'm the owner. You should have checked too." He was silent. I wasn't angry at him personally. Everyone makes their choices and bears the risk. Negotiations went on for about 2 years. Each side proposed something and rejected something else. Once they invited me to look inside the house to understand the value. I went in for a few minutes. They showed the layout, the view from the windows, the stairs. I didn't take photos. I said, "This doesn't change the fact it's built on my land." They nodded. In the end, we signed a settlement out of court because of confidentiality. I can't disclose the details. In essence, I received compensation. The company obtained clear title and finished the house. The fraudster wasn't found. The attorney who handled the deal now gives lectures on protecting against document fraud. First, official papers must be verified. Don't rely solely on a power of attorney and a passport. You need additional identity checks. Second, paying money doesn't mean you bought the property from the real owner. Third, if you own land or other property, check the registry records once a year. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.